Hello, good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible. I think we'll start. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to the official inauguration of Bioryx Bio Talks. Today marks not just the start of a session, but the beginning of a vision to build a strong student driven scientific community. On behalf of the Bioryx team, I warmly welcome our respected chief guest speaker and all participants joining us today. Bioryx was created to go beyond conventional learning, encouraging curiosity, collaboration, and meaningful scientific discussions. So, through BioTalks, we aim to provide a platform where ideas are shared and young minds are inspired to explore the life sciences. This inauguration marks an important milestone for our community and the beginning of a journey in scientific learning and engagement. And it is our great honor to have with us Dr. T.V. Sajeev, Chief Scientist at the Kerala Forest Research Institute. His contributions to biological and environmental research are truly commendable, and we are truly grateful for his presence today. So I am honored to invite Dr. T.V. Sajeev to officially inaugurate Bioryx Biotalks and deliver the inaugural address. Sir, we welcome you.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you. Uh, with the permission of all of you over here, I formally inaugurate Bioryx lecture series. Now, a couple of words on how I look forward to this series of lectures by students, experts, and all. The first question is that I'm so happy to see biology or life science being celebrated. And what makes biology unique is one of the interesting questions which we could ask. Uh, Compared to other sciences like physics or chemistry, biology is supposed to be a soft science, while we call chemistry and physics as hard sciences. Why is it so? It's because of two major reasons. Uh, the first reason is that the hard sciences are predictive, while the soft sciences are not as predictive as the hard sciences. Like, for example, if you fire a rocket into the atmosphere, if you know the initial conditions, you can predict where the rocket is going to be after 10 minutes or 20 minutes or half an hour. And that is precisely why we could put a satellite on the exact position which we like. So physics is predictable. And if you pour two different chemicals into a test tube, you can predict what is going to happen. So these two sciences are basically predictive in nature. But come to biology, say I'm an entomologist. I've been studying moths for a long period of time. If a moth sits in front of me, and if somebody asks which direction the moth is going to fly, I'm truly helpless because biology is most of the things are unpredictable. This is basically because we are studying life, and life is very chaotic, and hardly we can predict things out there. So we move over to very mechanistic or deterministic way of approach in physics and chemistry to much more probabilistic approach in biology. So predictability is the first reason. What makes biology a soft science and also physics and chemistry as hard sciences. And the second reason is that many of the knowledge in physics and chemistry can be expressed in the language called as mathematics. But if you come to biology, many of the things are still descriptive. And that's the second reason. So we have hard sciences and soft sciences, and we are dealing with the soft science called biology. But still, biology is not going to remain as a soft science. It is trying to become harder and harder. And how does it do that? It does that by combining with other subjects and forming new subdisciplines. Like, for example, biology merges with physics to form a subdiscipline called biophysics. It merges with chemistry to form biochemistry. It merges with mathematics to form biomathematics. It merges with statistics to form biostatistics. It merges with technology to form a subject called biotechnology. So biology is a discipline which is trying to become harder and harder. So that's the way we place biology. And I have two more things to say. One is on the sequence which is going to come up, uh, a little bit of information for the speakers. When the speakers give a title, It is also good that a very short paragraph can also be shared so that the audience will understand what is going to be deliberated. And when the speaker delivers the lecture, he or she will be definitely establishing the state of art of that particular subject. But at the same time, there's be a lot of knowledge which is going to be shared. But what is important is that at least for a few cases, the speaker should explain the method in which the knowledge was created. Uh, this is because science is not a product, it is a process. So people should understand that this is a process, and what is the process in which that particular knowledge has been developed. Is it by observation, or is it because of uh, experiment or a thought experiment? So if a few cases the methodology is explained, that would be very useful for the participants. And next, I would say that every speaker should give a brief history of the topic which he or she is deliberating, because all this knowledge has not come up on just one fine morning. There's a large number of people who have contributed to that particular discipline, and if there's a timeline showing the landmarks in that particular field, that will really encourage the audience to go back and look at their life and their work, things like that. So introducing the stalwarts in that particular area is another thing the speakers could do. And lastly, the speaker should stop the talk by listing out the unanswered questions in that particular discipline. No subject is closed. There are still unanswered questions around, and that is why we people are scientists. We are scientists not because we know everything, but we know that there are still things to be known. So the speaker should expose the unanswered questions so that the participants can take it up, and they can take it up as a challenge. And that is how vibrant science happens across the globe. And lastly, a word for the participants. So whenever a topic is announced, there's a way in which a participant needs to prepare to hear a talk. It is not a talk is not going to be a one-way traffic. Every participant can do a bit of homework once the title is known. Just Google it out. If your time permits, just go into the Google Scholar and prepare uh, uh, to hear the lecture. And how do you do that? Assume that you are going to give the lecture, and then you will have a frame in your mind on what are the things you are going to say. And then when you start to hear the lecture, you will understand how the speaker is moving away from your sequence of information which you have prepared. And that is a place where you are going to be excited and hear the talk in a very critical manner, so that there should be questions asked, because science moves forward based on critique. Unless critic is there, there is no science. There's no leaps in science possible. So I personally feel that the speakers and the participants have got an equal role in making each of the lectures successful. I congratulate this Bioryx team for organizing this particular event, and I wish all the best to everybody uh, out here and the people who are going to join us in the later episodes of the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insightful and inspiring words. Your thoughts have truly set the tone for this initiative. With great pride, we hereby declare Bioryx Biotalks officially inaugurated. Now, let's move on to today's session, our first session of Biotalks on invasive alien species, threats to biodiversity and ecosystems. With great happiness and joy, I invite Miss Aleesha Anil, who will be delivering this session for us. Without further delay, let us begin.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. I'll share my screen with you all. Please let me know if it is shared, okay? 1 second. Yeah, is it sharing? Hello? Can you see the shared screen, everybody?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so first and foremost, thank you for giving me this opportunity. let me introduce you all to myself. My name is Aleesha Anil. I am currently pursuing my degree in B.Sc Zoology honors at St. Joseph College, Devagiri, Calicut. And first and foremost, yeah, it's a great opportunity to be starting this bio talks by Bioryx. And I thank the directors as well as the community members for making this community something, where we can all discuss about the things that we as science students are interested in. And thank you, Sajeev sir, for officially inaugurating this event and making a set, starting this bio talks in the first place. And yeah, so today the session that I'm planning on is about invasive alien species, threats to biodiversity and ecosystem. So I had the opportunity to meet TV Sajeev sir, the chief scientist of KFRI on the wildlife celebration week in October 8th in Arlam Wildlife Sanctuary. There was a camp there, and I had the opportunity to present this seminar live in front of him. And I take this opportunity to share it with you all as well. So after this introduction, let me begin with my seminar. So I hope you all are ready and interested. So moving on. So can I start? Yeah. So we'll be dealing with invasive alien species, threats to biodiversity and ecosystem. So what we will be discussing today is mainly what is invasive alien species, IAS, how do they spread, the real world examples, ecological, economic and social impacts, what they cause, the prevention, control strategies, and the control measures that we can take against them. Okay. So before we delve into this topic, before we get to know the threats and what these species do to the environment, it is important for us to understand what invasive alien species are. So in simple terms, native species are the species that belong to a certain environment. But if something other than the native species come and inhibit them, it is known as non-native species. And by definition, invasive species are non-native alien species introduced to a new ecosystem that spread aggressively and cause harm. So that is the definition. And to get to know more, they are the non-native species introduced into an area. That could be maybe by humans, accidentally or intentionally. Let's take for an example. We are all aware of the incidents like in transport and in airports. There is proper checking. Even in cases we have seen celebrities being stopped from carrying flowers, like jasmine flowers. And why is that? That is in order to stop them from spreading from one continent to another through the means of transport. Okay, and the threat that they induce is that they outcompete the native species for resources. That means even in the case of food as well as in the space. That means the food, the native species and these alien species that come to inhabit will be having a fight. For this competition will be there based on food as well as space. Then there will be no natural predators. For example, if you belong to a certain environment, you will have predators. That is the general food web, the food cycle that carries on. But when some certain species come in and inhabit, which are not native to that particular region, there is a clash between them for food as well as for these food web processes. Yeah. And according to IUCN, which we all know, International Union for Conservation of Nature, about 42% of the endangered species is affected by these invasive species. And I think that is of great significance because this topic itself is significant because we need to understand the dangers, the threats that these species put on to the ecosystem as well as the environment. Yeah. So let me begin with telling you all how these alien invasive species spread. I gave you an example earlier about how it is spread through transport, travel, etc. So the first main thing is trade and travel itself. So you'll be asking me, what is ship's ballast water? So ballast water is water that is pumped into a ship's tank so that they maintain the stability of the ship. And what happens is that when this water is pumped, there could be microbes, larvae, and also species invasives that get transported along with it in the water. And this could be actually, this, as we all know, ships travel, to multiple places for transport, trade, etc. This species could also, as a passenger, move on, and go to those places and infect those areas. Then hitchhiking on cargo, like rats on ships, etc., are the example of that. Then there is intentional release, pets. So I would like to tell you a small story. As I told you, I had the opportunity to present the same seminar in front of Sajeev sir, as well as a lot of enthusiasts on science. And while I was telling this invasive species, I will be mentioning about red-eared slider, that is a turtle, and I actually had it as a pet. So yeah, I had it as a pet, and I did not know that it was an invasive species back then. So that is what, even in your homes you may be having these species as pets, which we may or may not know it is invasive. So the main key element of knowing it is awareness, which we'll be dealing with later. So yeah, it can be intentional release through as pets, ornamental plants. Let's take for the example of water hyacinth. It is a very beautiful flowering plant. I'll show it to you in the coming slides. And it was brought in even to India and many other countries for as in ornamental plants, even lantana camera. And then it took over the whole space by destroying, taking up more space, and as we all know, these spread throughout, blocking sunlight and making it difficult for the aquatic life. Then it is the biological control. We know releasing fish for sport, also at aqua farming. In the case of catfish, African catfish, which was also introduced, became a major threat, even affecting birds. And accidental release, like insects and luggage, violent travel, etc. So what are the enabling factors? Global trade. 70% of the invasions is linked with international shipping, as I mentioned. Shipping, transport, etc. all is a reason why invasive species spread. Then climate change. We all know that the current situation of our Earth is depleting. We read articles based on climate change, habitat destruction, deforestation, and whatnot. And even though we may not consider it as a whole level, it is affecting even the minute systems. And warmer temperature helps species to expand to a wide range. And this is also a reason why invasive species spread. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to the real world examples. So as I mentioned, African catfish, Clarias caribes. It is native to African and parts of Middle East. It was introduced to India for aquaculture. As we all know, aquaculture is in where we have a mass culture of aquatic species, and it was brought in, and now it is recognized as one of the most harmful invasive species. The thing is that it eats frogs, crustaceans, and even birds. Yes, even though being in an aquatic surface, it has the ability to even attack birds. And this, in the end, causes a decline in the native and commercial fish species. So the harmful effects of catfish, African catfish in India. So the main thing, as I already mentioned, it is an aggressive predator. It is carnivorous. It feeds on native fish, amphibians, crustaceans, and even small birds. And there was a steady evidence that the research shows that it heavily preys on indigenous fish, leading to a decline in the local biodiversity. As you all know, it was introduced in India from the Middle East, and thus it is non-native. It is not native to India, and thus it affects the local native species because it feeds on them, and the population gets decreased. The equilibrium gets changed. Okay, so the result is that native fish population begins to decrease or disappear over time. So then spread in Indian water bodies. This is a Kerala case study of Yamanadu Lion. It was escaped from illegal aqua farms. It is very common, like in aquaculture itself. They have they had escaped from that, established a population in natural ecosystems, not in the farm itself, but they had invaded natural ecosystems. And this study, the field surveys found that they were mature breeding individuals, proving it can reproduce and spread even in the wild, not just in farms in the proper aquaculture facilities. They can also be spreading in the wild. So this made the rapid invasion in biodiversity with rich wetlands. Okay, so yeah, it is a very aggressive predator, strong competition with native species, and the scientific studies in reservoir systems as well as in the lake case is a sure confirmation that it is an invasive species that needs to be controlled. Otherwise, it could be an harm for the native species of not just India but the different countries. Yeah, moving on. This is lantana camera. As you all can see, it is a very beautiful ornamental plant that was introduced. It is native to Central as well as South America. Now it is one of the most widespread invasive weeds in forest and grassland. Okay, you can see how beautiful from the picture itself is, and that is a result why it was established as an ornamental plant. And soon it took over various, the system which was wherein it was introduced. And the main problem of this species is that it called the leaves as well as the fruits are toxic to cattle as well as other herbivores who try to feed on them. So it not just affects the particular area, it also affects the species living there, the animals especially. So the main thing is that it blocks sunlight. It, as you can see, it this grows as a bunch, and it blocks sunlight and prevents the native species from growing because it takes over the particular area wherein it is introduced, and thus it results in taking over the particular area where it is growing. So the harmful effects and the spread, which is what we'll be discussing next. Loss of native biodiversity forms dense, thick bushes that block sunlight. The main thing is that as they spread, it blocks sunlight, prevents growth of native plant and also tree seedlings. From the case of Mathumalai Tiger Reserve, it was evident that the large areas are heavily invaded in this reserve, and the native grasses and plants were declined, which affects the herbivores of that particular region. And if you are also taking Bandipur National Park, this dense growth has reduced the grazing area for herbivores. As I mentioned, when these spread throughout, the other plants won't have the space to grow, even grass, and thus it will affect the herbivores who are grazing in that particular area. So it indirectly affects predators like tigers due to reduced prey. As you all know, we have all well aware of the food cycle, the food web. If one species is extinct or endangered, it would affect the whole food cycle, food web in the whole. So if when the herbivores are affected, it would eventually affect the secondary, primary predators, consumers who are there in the cycle as well. Yeah. Then the thing is that it alters ecosystem structure. Changes in soil nutrients and microhabitants, it reduces the overall ecosystem's diversity as well as the balance between them. And the case study from Western Ghats, the research had shown that it is one of the major threats to biodiversity in Western Ghats. So, there are many different hotspots around the country, and if such invasive species take over, it could actually, be a major threat in the hotspot areas. Yeah, moving on. Yeah, here we come to the red-eared slider. It is villainous or valuable? That is a question here. It is native to southern United States as well as Mexico. It is a freshwater turtle, popular as a pet. How it spread is the next question. It is released into ponds and rivers by pet owners. So I earlier told you that I had the same species as a pet, and I was not aware. After my seminar, Sajeev sir asked me, "What did you do what did you do to the pet later on?" I told sir, I don't remember. So sir told, you should know, because it is an invasive species that you had in your home, and you should be knowing what you should do after all. So I asked my parents what they did with that, and they told me that this pet was given to a pet shop. Am I still hello? Can I get any response? I'm not sure if I'm audible. Hello? Anyone?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Yeah. So I'll just continue. I just wanted to know if you all are here. Yeah. So I asked my parents what they did, and they told me that they had returned it to a pet shop when we, returned from that place. Yeah. So that is how, we should, if we are having an invasive species as a pet, we should be responsible, and we should know how, if it was just released somewhere, it could have spread. And that is something that we should not do. Okay, so that is how it's spread. If it is released in ponds and rivers by pet owners, it could, breed and spread throughout. So what are the threats? As we mentioned in all the previous cases, it's the main thing is that it competes with the native species. It here competes with the native turtles for food, and also phasmicides. Phasmicides is the wherein they leave the water and go in for the leave the water for a particular time. That is known as phasmicides. It spreads diseases to native species. So the main thing is that it transmits diseases. So in the case of, does it, if you ask me the question, if it does it transfer uh, diseases to human beings, to the pet owners, yes, there is a possibility. As you know, there could be this salmonellus bacteria. If I'm not, that is what I just got to know. But the main thing is that it spreads through the other native species, other turtle native species. But even in human beings also, there is a case wherein symptoms could be like fever, diarrhea, and all, and they could also transmit to human beings. That is one thing. And this alters the aquatic ecosystem and the food chain. So let's talk about this. This mainly threatens the native turtles. They may outcome the native turtles for food, for nesting, for basking areas, and hybridize with other spider species. Okay, and the thing about this, how it impacts on Indian states, is that it is found in various lakes as well as ponds across the states, threatening the native turtles like the Indian flapshell turtle. So the Indian flapshell turtle is one of the native species turtles found in India, and with this invasive species, red-eared slider, being introduced, it has the threat of being declined, the population being declined, and the main control that is that can be done is by ban on trade, awareness to stop pet release. As I mentioned earlier, we should be aware if we have an invasive pet, we should be aware of what the threat is it carries, and also the removal from natural habitat. We should have a controlled system if we are breeding it. Even though it is banned in trade as well, if there are still it is carried on as a pet, so it should be. Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, your slides are not visible.
1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Can you see it now? Hello?
No. Yeah, now.
Yeah?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for letting me know. Yeah. So where was I? I was here. This was the slide I was actually talking about the red-eared slider. I hope that was audible. Now we are moving on. As you all know, April 14th, Vishu will be celebrating Vishu, and this is a species that Konna we all know about. So Senna spectabilis, and the thing about this is that it is also considered as an invasive species. The main thing is that they release some allelochemicals produced by these species. It prevents germination of many native species. So due to these, even in the latest report that I had actually went through, there was some insect that is actually affecting this, and the population is declining. Not pretty much sure, I've not read in detail, but there's something going on with that. And the origin is of native to tropical America. It was introduced for shade as well as an ornamental planting due to the flowers, as we can see. And the thing is that its invasive nature is that it spreads rapidly in forests, especially in Wayanad, Western Ghat regions, as well as in Nilgiri regions. It grows densely, blocking sunlight and suppressing the native plants. So as mentioned earlier, it prevents germination in the surrounding areas. If this species is there, it blocks the germination of certain species near it, affecting the the plant growth near the systems. Yeah, and it also, the main reason is that it alters the soil nutrients and affects regeneration of native trees. It reduces biodiversity and changes forest structure. That is what the Manyapona, also known as Senna spectalis, mainly due to the chemicals that it releases. So the threat is that it endangers the native flora and fauna in Kerala's forest ecosystems, and uprooting. The main control that can be done is that we can uproot seedlings from a very base state. We can uproot them, and by replacing it with other species. Yeah. Moving on. The next invasive alien species, 1 second. The next invasive alien species that we'll be discussing about is giant African snail. The thing about this is that it's not just in the country, but also in districts like Kannur and all, it's very very huge threat is there due to these snails. Is very commonly seen, and the origin of this is in East Africa. So the type is that it is a large land snail. It was introduced through trade as well as farming. The invasive nature is that it eats over 500 types of plants, damaging crops and gardens. So one of the main threat that the ecosystem or the environment faces due to these invasive species is that it damages the environment. Here, as we get to know that it eats over 500 types of plants, and it damages the crops, and competing with native snails, as well as it alters the soil composition. It spreads here disease-causing parasites. Which is even harmful for humans. And as I mentioned, it is not just, you cannot say it is found in in India. It is also found in the different states of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and other states, causing serious agricultural loss. So, as I mentioned, these snails have the capability to damage the agricultural productivity, as well as create a decline in them, because this is a rapidly increasing invasive species. And the control that can be done is destruction of these snails' eggs, and also hand collection. Chemical control method is the most effective one, and also public awareness. But I think as we provide more and more awareness about these species, we should also be into chemical control and other measures to control this invasive species. Yeah, moving on. The next what we'll be talking about is water hyacinth. As I mentioned earlier, it was also introduced as an ornamental plant. It was origin to South America. So the type is that it is a free-floating aquatic plant. It is invasive nature is that it grows rapidly, forming dense mats on the water surface. So the problem with this is that, as we can see in this picture, it is very clearly seen that the top layer, the water surface, is completely blocked, and thus it will affect the aquatic system below it, right? Because sunlight cannot be penetrated, and this will also reduce the oxygen levels, and probably eventually lead into the aquatic life's decline. And the main issue here is that aquatic life gets destroyed because of this huge species going above it, and it also obstructs navigation, fishing, irrigation, and water flow. Even if this is common here as well in canals and all, due to this spreading, it is difficult for the species to survive there. Impact on India is that it is found in rivers, lakes, ponds, especially in Kerala, Assam, and Odisha. Like when we see all these slides, all these examples of species, what we see in most cases is that it is present in Kerala as well, be it water hyacinth or be it the snail that we just discussed. So as responsible citizens, it is as science students, as a community, we must provide awareness, not just to people who are related to these plants, but to others as well, that how these species can cause damage to the environment and ecosystem. Yeah. Then the control methods that can be used is mechanical removal is there, then biological control, and awareness as one of the main mentions. Mechanical removal is possible, but still it has these huge way to come back and form the lush again. Moving on, next we'll be talking about Salvina. It is original to South America. It is a free-floating aquatic fawn. So as we can see from the picture itself, like the previous one, it covers the top layer. It grows rapidly, forming thick mats on the water surface, blocks sunlight. The main problem with such aquatic species, just like water hyacinth or salvina, is that it creates thick mat or kind of that in the water surface, causing sunlight and reduction in oxygen levels, harming the aquatic plants as well as fish. Yeah, so it disrupts the irrigation, navigation, just like previously mentioned, and also the fishing activities in that particular region. It is also found in ponds, lakes, as well as in slow-moving rivers in Kerala, where there is a particular, where it is still water, where there is in particular moment where the slow-moving rivers are found. It is evident because if there is, as we can know, it needs a stable water source to be growing smoothly. Yeah, so it is seen in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, as well as in other states. The same control control measures can be done here, mechanical removal as well as monitoring, preventive monitoring. Yeah. So, taking all these examples into mind, let us see the ecological impacts. As I mentioned, the topic of my seminar today is the threats they cause to the biodiversity as well as ecosystem. And we need to know, we know a lot of invasive species that we also discussed about these species. Now we need to know what are the impact that they cause in our ecosystem. So invasive alien species, how they impact, as I mentioned, competition, grazing, predation, poisoning, where in the case we had taken the example of which plant? We had taken the example of Lantana camera, wherein it causes poisoning and liver damage in animals. And there are certain, in the case of red ear slider, they cause diseases to the native turtle species, etc. And so the first and foremost important thing is that the biodiversity loss that they cause. They outcompete or the prey on they outcompete the prey or natives. Example, here we have the example of a brown tree snakes wiped out 10 bird species. So even in the case of African catfish, they have the capability to, feed on crustaceans near the native fish species as well as even birds. So that is indeed a threat. Then the ecosystem disruption, it alters the food webs and the food cycle. As we mentioned, we had taken previous example that even the Lantana camera itself, that due to these species that are being grown, the grass that is available for grazing for the herbivores is very rapidly declining because of the massive spread, and thus it could affect the food cycle and in turn the food web as a whole, because when one part of that is affected, it could affect the whole. Yeah. So yeah, it also alters the soil chemistry as well as it is of great significance due to altering of the soil's nutrient level. Yeah. Then hybridization, inbreed with natives, diluting the genetic diversity. So as we know, we by definition know that invasive species are non-native species. So there will be native species, and inbreeding could actually, cause in genetic diversity in a particular region. Yeah. And the thing about this is that the primary production can also be altered, as I mentioned, in the food web category, and damage to forestry as well as in the reduced access to fishing, like because of these invasive species, there could be loss in that as well. Then according to IUCN, the IAS, that is the invasive alien species, contribute to 60% of extinctions on islands. So as if they take over a particular island, there could be loss in the species diversity of that particular area, causing a decline in the species of a particular region. Yeah. So ecologically, invasive alien species are like dominoes, like knocking out on species that affects the entire chain, leading to extinction and a complete unbalance in the ecosystem, which we need to be aware of. So next we'll be talking about the economic as well as the social impacts that these invasive species cause on. So the main thing is that crop and fisheries loss, invasive pests and plants. So example here that we before discussed about water hyacinth reduces yield as well as fish catch. Water hyacinth, it affects the aquatic life. It creates this top layer of the species that makes it hard for fishing as well as production of the plant species here. And then high control cost in India. So the main thing we have discussed about this is that how to control it. It can be by chemical methods, by hand picking, by other methods as well. And there is, we need to invest some things invest in the control costs of this. And India has lost over so and so billion, that is about $127 billion in 60 years due to invasive species. It is not just in India, but also on different continents as well as countries. They prevent these invasive species from taking over because the cost control to control these species from spreading exponentially is increasing, and thus it is of great significance that we need to understand. Then the damage to ecosystem that they cause. So plants like lantana they degrade the forest as well as soil. We came to know that the fruits as well as the leaves are highly deadly, that like there are toxins that are released, and it could affect the cattle that may, or they could actually feed on them and can have a issues related to that. Then the livelihood loss of farmers, fishers, as well as forest communities lose income as well as resources. So when such species are introduced, they could affect as a whole the crops, the agricultural balance can be affected because of these invasive species. And fisheries, as I mentioned, it could be difficult for, and the fisheries as well as crop losses, and also the forest communities. Due to such invasive species, the forest as a whole could be affected. The species that thrive there could be affected. So we'll be now discussing about the social impacts. The main social impact is the food and income insecurity, that is the reduced agricultural and fish productivity, as mentioned earlier, that could affect socially. Then an increase in the short-term effects can be that it is possible, the actions possible to boost this thing. It could actually, health risks can be done, and income insecurity can be increased, etc. Then there are certain health risks. Some species spread diseases, as we mentioned, the red-eared slider, it spreads diseases in the native turtles, to the native turtles as well as in human as well. There are certain cases in that, and even the giant African snail, which we previously discussed. Then it is the burden on the communities, that is like more effort to find fuel, fodder, and clean water. Because of these invasive species, it gets difficult for the basic necessities to be carried on. Then there is cultural losses, as we mentioned, due to these non-native species that invade, the native species of that region can be facing threats, and their population could decline. So there will be cultural loss of the native plants tied to the local traditions as well. Then human health risks. Some carry diseases like the Asian tiger mosquito that spreads dengue. There are some species that also cause human health risks as well. Then we'll be discussing the social effects. The main social effect, as we previously discussed, is the threatening to food security in developing countries. There will, due to these invasive species, especially in Africa and all, there is a huge issue in the food security. Then cultural loss, examples in the invasive species that damage, the ecosystem and also sacred sites. Yeah. Then what can we do to take measures for prevention as well as the control strategies? That is what we'll be discussing. The first and the foremost thing is that strict quarantine and border checks. As from in the starting of my session, I had mentioned the cases wherein airports have strict checking to see, where it may be, just a tiny bit of flowers or some, fruits or something that we carry, but they have regular checking on that, strict checking on that. And that is because, by, as mentioned already, it is due to travel and trade that these invasive species spread. So it is of great significance to have a proper, check, so that we can have the main thing we can do is that we can control this spreading by trade and travel. That is something we have in under control. So if if there is from India to other countries or even continent to continent, we can prevent that, stop the entry of invasive alien species. Then it is the early detection and rapid response. So if we are aware, if farmers or if people who are into these fields are aware of the threats, the problems that these invasive species bring, they would actually be aware of what they are actually growing or what they are trying to produce in a whole, even in the aqua farming, like in the case of African catfish. So proper awareness can be a great help. Then regular monitoring, surveys and community reporting. A proper surveys that can be conducted. Even in these cases, we can see that there are been case reports on the Vemrad Kyle and the Bandipur Reserve, and such study reports will actually help us analyze how these invasive species are creating a threat to the biodiversity. Then, as mentioned already, public awareness, educate farmers, students, and locals. So the thing is that, as I mentioned, it was during the Wildlife Celebration Week that we had a small camp on this invasive alien species, and that is where I got to know a lot about these species, and that is on it is on the basis that I prepared my today's seminar. And yeah, it is through such public awareness and education. Even as I mentioned, Sajeev sir had presented his his studies, his research and all, and it is a summation of all that I got to know about these invasive species, and I understood that it is of great significance as well. So that we as students, as a community of students, must be aware, must be even though it is isn't of great we should be aware of what these species are, and to educate others as well. Then there is restoration, that is replant native species after removal. Even though complete removal is of great question, if they can be completely removed or wiped out, there is still a possibility if proper measures are taken, and then the restoration of native species can be brought upon. Then there is a strong laws and coordination to enforce wildlife and biodiversity acts. First and foremost, the main thing is that we need to have a strict law regarding, even in our country, that invasive species on to enforce wildlife and many acts can be implemented as well to have a controlled have a control in the spreading of invasive species. Yeah. So as we come to the conclusion of our seminar, I would like to say that invasive alien species are indeed a serious threat to India's biodiversity and economy. And as responsible people who delve into different topics of science related issues, we should be aware of the invasive alien species and how they impact the biodiversity and the threat that they cause. Here we have got, you can see in my slide, there are different invasive species and how they affect the ecosystem has been mentioned in the previous slide, Landana. Even there are different water hyacinths. There are still many more. Yeah, as I had to make this short, I just took a few commonly known available, which we can relate to species which we have seen or which we have read about. It's just a small part of it. There are even though more. So invasive alien species are indeed a huge and serious threat. They cause huge losses in agriculture, fisheries, and ecosystem, as mentioned. And earlier prevention, strong laws, and community awareness are key to control them. Protecting native species ensures a healthy, balanced, and sustainable environment for the future. So, as what we can do is that the native species must be protected. Otherwise, it could affect the forestry, the fisheries, as well as the agricultural sector in great levels. So, strict laws and strict proper trade and travel control measures must be implemented. And even though it is commonly seen in Kerala, in parts of Kerala, invasive species, we must try to decline their population, but not in a certain level that could be harmful, but it could affect the food cycle as well, right? So that is it. The best defense is prevention. Simple actions like checking on the how to stop invasions control is possible. But as I mentioned, India and different various countries spend a huge sum of money for the prevention method to control the spread of invasive species. So as we come to the end, I would like to say that invasive alien species remind us how this whole world is interconnected, and how a certain species can affect the other species, like non-native species can affect native species. And as I mentioned, it is our responsibility to give awareness. And I've seen that farmers and also people in these sectors are given proper knowledge and awareness about these invasive species by responsible officials. And I'm sure within this is how, as a community, we can get to know about these invasive species in a whole. So that is about my seminar. 1 second. So thank you so much all for being here. And as I mentioned, it is a great opportunity for me to start this BioTalks, a community by science enthusiasts, Bioryx, and the seminars given here by all the teachers, professors. It's indeed great help, and I hope that this session has inspired more and more science students to come forward with their research activities in what you have done, and take seminars which will inspire more and more people to come forward and take their sessions. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else?
Thank you so much, Miss Aleesha. Do we have any questions?
Yes, can I start up? Uh, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are
Yes,
audible.
sir.
Yeah.
Uh, Congrats, Alisha. It was a nice presentation, nice introductory talk. I have four things to tell you. One is in one of your early slides, you told that all invasives are alien, but all aliens are not invasive. Actually, that statement is not that correct because we also have native species which are invasive, and those species which are native and becoming invasive, we call them as weeds. So weeds are those plants which are native but show an invasive behavior. So that is the first thing. And the second thing is what about what you are going to do with your own pet, the red-eared sailor turtle. So to give it back to the shop will not solve the problem. It will because they will sell it to somebody else. Now we at KFRI we have got a center called an Order Center for Biological Innovations, and we are running a pet surrender program. So anybody who wants to part with the reduced ladder turtle, they can contact us and we will take it from them. So we have somewhere around 240 turtles collected from different parts of the state, and that is one way of preventing they going into the wild. And the third thing is that on the control part, you mentioned about chemical control. Now, the problem with invasive alien species is that whenever an invasion happens, there are two problems. One is the problem caused by the invasive species, and the second is the problem caused by our effort to control it. So there are two problems. We need to address both the issues because there's a problem of invasion and you do something which is absolutely harmful for the whole environment. And that is why we need to keep away the chemical control part because chemicals cannot distinguish between invasive species and native species. When you apply chemicals, it affects the entire biodiversity. So we need to have non-chemical control methods for invasive species. And finally, from the action point of view, students can think of making their campuses invasion free. You can have, if students from different colleges uh, get awareness about the invasive species, the first thing they can do is to remove all the invasive species from their own campuses and declare the campus as invasion free. And that would be a great message going to all the students and several homes in Kerala. And also, you can do it at your home. You can do it in the neighborhood. So that is one way in which you can spread the message. But thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So, do we have any questions from the audience?
It's very nice presentation. Congratulations. Can you tell me how the aquatic alien invasive species impact or influence the BOD, COD, and turbidity level?
The main thing is that in aquatic species, like in the case of water hyacinth or salviana, the thing is that it causes a thick layer in the topmost surface of the water. It could actually affect in the sunlight penetration, and thus it could cause in this decline of oxygen level that gets beneath that that is available for the aquatic as well as the fishes, the aquatic life. And the main thing is that due to these spread of the species in this whole level, it could affect the water's oxygen content and the affect the BOD as well.
Thank you. So, anyone else? You can either unmute or even type your questions down in the chat box.
One more thing I would like to add, just like Sajeev's
In terrestrial condition, alien species, how they impact to other native species?
Sorry, could you repeat your question? How they impact?
You have any idea about the Mycorrhizia mycorrhizantha? Mycorrhizia mycorrhizantha? Mycorrhizia
No,
mycorrhizantha?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Okay, okay. It's yeah, distributed all over northeast. Lantana camera
Oh,
all over India found, but lantana camera very less amount quantity found in northeast. But Mycorrhizia
okay.
mycorrhizantha is found more number of invasive
Okay.
species than
So
other
yeah,
invasive.
I discussed about some of the invasive species, but there are certainly more which is found in other states as well. Yeah, yeah. So there are, as Sajeev sir earlierly mentioned, that there is not just chemical control; it could also affect, which I did not mention. There are also other methods that can be done in order to prevent accessibility, the control measures that can be done. Even though handpicking and all, it's not at a huge level. But we could find other alternatives some known ways or other biotics control these species.
Are there any difference in aquatic and terrestrial alien species impact?
It affects the in aquatic. It is that it affects the aquatic life in the whole, but comparing to the other ones, there are diseases also that can be transferred into natives as well as the species.
But in terrestrial condition, how it impact?
If we are taking the example of which we earlier discussed about which one can we get about Landana camera, the fruits as well as the leaves are having this one. It is toxic to the herbivores, that is the cattle and the other animals that feed. And if you're taking the example of water hyacinth or other aquatic invasive species, it affects the aquatic life, reducing the
But
oxygen levels.
but we have found in diet of jackal and bears so many lantana seeds. In the plains area of forest central India, other parts we found bear species and other jackal species in their scat. We found lantana seeds. So it's be contributing their diet also. Even if so many butterflies, some lizards also stay using.
Okay, like maybe like even animals have a role in spreading these even birds also the seeds can it could spread from one region to another. Yeah, so that's the knowledge I have regarding that. Anything else?
But some native species they have medicinal values. What you will say about this?
Native species do have medicinal values. There are medicinal plants here. That's
Yeah,
true.
it might be weeds, but they have medicinal values.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So yeah, can I conclude my session? I had the time till 8:30. So I would like to conclude by saying that thank you Bioryx community for giving me this opportunity to take my seminar, and to Sajeev sir as well for officially inaugurating. It is with great pride and honor that I did my seminar, and I had got to know a lot of views and opinions and other ideas from him and other people as well. I hope the best for this community. May more and more such presentations and seminar come, and let we spread knowledge throughout. So thank you once again. Thank you so much. And this is me, Aleesha Anil. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Aleesha. We had a really insightful session today. As we come to the end of today's session, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. T.V. Sajeev for inaugurating this initiative and sharing his valuable insights for us. And we also extend our heartfelt thanks to our speaker for today, Ms. Aleesha Anil, for her informative session. I would like to thank all of you participants for your presence and support. We look forward to seeing you in our upcoming Bioryx Biotalk sessions and also other sessions that are coming up. So please do check out our WhatsApp community and group for the upcoming sessions, and there will be a feedback form that will be posted in the group. So you can just give out your opinions, and if you want to say how you felt about the session. So I hope the session was fruitful for everybody today. Good evening and thank you so much.